Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. First, if you don't mind, just giving us a little introduction about who you are and where you work.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm Brian Kale. I'm the head of customer success at Novo. We're a small business banking platform that's bringing a new banking experience to the modern business owners and founders. Many of them who are turned away by traditional banking experiences. They're looking for no fee checking and debit accounts and kind of a consumer facing experience that, you may not know this, but like if you use a business banking account, many of those systems are very outdated because they're designed for larger companies and it's very slow to innovate. So as businesses become smaller and smaller, they act more like consumers and they want consumer grade services. And Novo is trying to bring that to the business owners of America.
Where were you before Bank Novo?
I was at an artificial intelligence company here in New York City. I was working in customer success to help onboard enterprise size companies to our platform, a lot of education, enablement material. I learned a lot about automation outside of the actual product, like automation and customer experience, in how to like plan a holistic customer journey. And before that, I had been doing video game and tech journalism, and I worked in political campaigns even before that, which is ironically where I learned most of what I'm doing today. Was on a political campaign because it's a lot of outreach and a lot of education and engagement to get voters to vote.
And it's so interesting, I think, when you look at that experience of things that you would never think would correlate. And
Yeah.
then, I think the most fascinating thing is to hear how everyone gets into customer care because it's never what you'd expect. It's not the whole, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. It's something that we just fall into, and it seems like no one ever leaves. So.
Exactly. The joke is with sales, like no one goes to college to be in sales. You fall into it. And the same thing is almost true with CX. But the reality is so many of us practice CX before college. As we're growing up, if you work at McDonald's, you're a waiter, bartender, all of that's customer experience. You are learning the tenets there. Anytime you have to talk to a customer as part of your job, you are developing customer experience skill sets. And, I feel like I've always been on this path, whether I knew it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. In sales, I tell my kids, the first time you ask for an extra cookie and you already have it planned of like, what are the objections going to be and how am I going to actually sell, mom or dad on how I'm going to get that? I'm like, you already started in sales. You're like 3 years old. So
Exactly.
funny how that works. Yeah. So with your experience in customer success space, like what brought you to Bank Novo? Because your employee number
7, yeah.
7. Yeah. Very exciting.
So when I was leaving my last company, I wanted to think about joining a very early stage company, one that hadn't developed any customer experience practices or department, because I wanted to build one using the philosophies that I had learned over my career and kind of build something from the ground up. It's really rewarding and fulfilling, as many startup people know, to build something from the ground up. There's tons of opportunity and tremendous amount of flexibility and freedom. And that really spoke to me. I find that traditionally baked company, like the longer established companies are already set in their ways and it's very difficult to change things. And I find that the consumers benefit the most from rapid innovation. And so joining a very early stage startup allowed me to really take the next step in my career and kind of get my hands dirty and change things almost on a weekly basis. And I never want to look back. It's been great. Startups are for everyone, but I'm that type of crazy that loves it. And so I'm not going to probably go back.
And so if you had to give a piece of advice for early stage startups, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah. So I actually talked to a lot of early founders and startups. And the number one piece of advice is get out of your inbox when talking to your customers and get into an omni-channel support tool, be it Zendesk, Intercom, or one of these other tools. You're leaving money on the table by talking to people in Gmail or Outlook, God forbid, because that data just dies in there. You can't share it with anyone without doing a lot of work, and you're too busy to do that work. So if you get it in a tool, you can start annotating it, you can start reporting on it, and you can start to really understand your early customer experience.
Yeah, well, and it's some of those common sense things that you would think most people understand to actually innovate, to push, the envelope of it, of what's next or what's
Yeah.
coming next for customers. is to not just live in your everyday, but it's something that, our founder talks about every year, multiple times, where he's telling our team, hey, you can't just respond to emails all day. You have to, be really looking at what are the customers saying? What's the root cause of issues, those types of things. So totally get it.
When you evolve your customer service into customer success, like customer service should be a dirty word for people. The goal is to understand, why are they contacting you? What is the root cause of this? And then how do I fix that proactively? And if you're not in a tool tracking those conversations and tracking what they're about, you have no way of understanding what it is that's wrong with your product and what it is your customers expect from your product. So the faster you do it, it doesn't matter how much it costs, you're going to make and save yourself tremendous amounts of money in the long run.